So in the second session, we're going to be doing problems from 5.3. Now, I didn't put the whole title here, but I just put finding values. But the whole title is finding values for the normal distribution. And what that means is we're going to do things because we've worked a lot on using the table to find probabilities when we knew data values. And now we're going to kind of go backwards. Nothing like learning how to do things forwards and backwards, right? So we're going to go backwards now, and we're going to be looking at having to find the x's. So they're going to tell us probabilities, and we're going to be trying to find the x's. So we're going to practice this for a little bit and do a couple of questions from 5.3. It's going to require some practice. Don't wait until Wednesday or after or the weekend. Try to do a few questions from 5.3 before the weekend so that you won't forget everything that we've talked about. But I'm looking at the very first question, okay? And I'm going to do this first one pretty slow. Using the table backwards is a little more difficult than using it forwards. So not a lot more difficult, just a little more difficult. So I'm looking at my number 1, and I will write my given information down here so that we can see how these are done. So this one says, use the standard normal table to find the z-score. So we're looking for, I'm going to write the instructions. They want to find the z-score. That's the question. That corresponds to the cumulative area of 0.0256, and it says if the area is not in the table, so sometimes they'll give us these areas and they're not in the table, we just use the area closest to it. So basically we're just going to practice using the table backwards. So when you see this, when they tell you cumulative area, that means area to the left. I'm going to draw a picture of this just to show you exactly what they're telling us. So we're going to look at this visually. So still I have z here, but I don't know the z. So I can't put anything down here. What they told me is that the area to the left is 0.0256. Now notice that that's less than half. So you see that's way less than half. So when you're talking about at z equals 0, the area to the left of that is 0.5. Anything over here has more than 0.5, and anything over here has less than 0.5 to the left. So since that is less than 0.5, that tells me that the z-score is negative. It's got to be over here somewhere. In fact, that's not very much area at all. So I'm going to put it over here. I'm just going to make note that I know this is a negative z. And I'm just going to, they're telling me the area to the left. Let's put that on there like we normally draw it. They're telling me the area to the left here is 0.0256. But the question is, what is the z-score? So I'm going to show you how to do that. Basically, we're going to use the table backwards. So, hold on just a second. I'm going to pull the table up so that we can use it backwards. Since we know we're looking for negative z, I'm going to look at page 1, which is the negative part. Now, by using it backwards, this is what I mean. I'm going to look in the body of the table. So what I'm looking at, guys, is all of these numbers in here. And what I'm trying to find, remember, I know the area to the left. I'm looking for an area. Sorry, that's really bad. That says area. Area to the left is 0.0256. If I'm real lucky, I will find that number in this list of areas. But if I can't find it, I'm just going to have to find whatever's closest. So I'm looking for 0.0202. I see some 0.02s. This is the hard part of it. 0.0256. I see a 0.0228. 02. Okay, so it's going to be, oh, there it is. It's in the gray. It's hard for me to see. 0.0256. And I found it. I found the area to the left of 0.0256. Now the question, remember, is what is the z-score that's associated with that cumulative area? So to get the z-score, I'm just going backwards. So I'm going to look to the left to get the first part of the z-score. So the first part of the z-score is negative 1.9. And then I'm going to look up to get the rest of the z-score. The rest of the z-score is 0.05. So the z-score that I'm looking for here is negative 1.95. Has an area to the left of 0.0256. So this number was in the table. I looked it up in the body of the table. So I'm going to give you a minute to do problem 1. You have to be able to do this kind to do the harder ones. So let's make sure everybody can find your cumulative area. That's the area to the left in the body of the table, and then figure out what z-score is associated with it. And then I'm going to find another one for us to practice on. Okay, we're going to go, the next one we're going to do is number 3. My number 3 says, use a table of cumulative areas, and that's what we've got, guys. Our Z table is a table of cumulative areas because cumulative areas are areas to the left. Because cumulative means what you've accumulated up to that point. You may remember when we did cumulative frequency. It was all the frequency, all the stuff that was up to that point. So this one, it tells me, let's see. It says find the z-score. So it's, again, it's looking for the z-score. The question's the same. It corresponds to the given cumulative area. So they're telling me on this one, the cumulative area is 0.052. Now, most of the areas have 4 digits in them. So since that one only has 3, that means that 4th one would have to be 0. So basically, I'm looking for 0.0520. And I'm looking for it in the body of the table because they've given me the area. They're asking for the z-score. Let's go back to our table. Oh, wait a second. Before we do that, before we go back to the table, let's talk about whether this is positive or negative. So remember I told you that on the z table, the area to the left of 0, the area to the left of 0 is 0.5, half of the area. Anything with the area to the left of less than 1/2, like this is less than 0.5, so that means it must have less area to the left, so that means it's negative. If they give you a cumulative area of greater than 0.5, that would mean it has to be over here so that it has more than half of the area to the left. So first decide if it's positive or negative, and now I know it's negative. So I'm looking for this negative z somewhere over here. And what they've told me about it is that the area to the left is 0.052, and I'm going to put that 0 on there because all the numbers in the table have 4 digits. Now I'm going to go to the table and look for this. So I'm going to the z table, and I'm looking at the negative one because I've determined this is a negative z-score because it doesn't have very much area to the left. And I'm looking in the body of the table for 0.0520. And of course it's 1 in the gray, so I'm gonna find it on my clearer one, and then I'll circle it on this one. 0.0520 is actually between 2. There's a 0.0526. I don't know if you can see this. I'm gonna write it on the board in a minute. There's a 0.0526 right there. And right beside it is a 0.0516 right beside it. Okay, hopefully you can see that if you have your table in front of you. So it's between, the area is between those two, somewhere in between. So I'm going to write those two areas on the board. So I had one has 0.0526 and 0.0516. So like the last two numbers are 26 on one of them and 16 on the other one. Now I need the z-scores for each of those, just so I can show you what I'm doing. So the one with the 26, the one with the 26 is negative 1.62, and the one with the 16 is negative 1.63. So I'm just going to write those down. Make sure I put the right one with the right one. I believe so. So on this question, I was not able to find this area exactly, but I found this one that's 6 too big. Do you see I'm comparing? That one has 20 at the end. This one is 26, and this one has 16. And if it's between two areas like this, we're basically going to go with whichever one is closest. So this one, notice 26, we're comparing to this because the first two numbers are the same. This one is 6 too big, and this one is 4 too small. So this one is closer. Since it's closer, that's the one we're going to use, negative 1.63. You should always write the two down and make sure that the number you're looking for is between them so that you know for sure that you're looking at the right things. I'm going to give you a minute to try that one. That one was number 3 on mine. So notice on that one, the area wasn't there exactly in the body of the table. So I wrote down the one that was, the two that were right next to each other, where one was a little big and one was a little small. And then basically I'm figuring out if one of them is closer, then that's the one we would take. A question, sometimes, and this happens a lot actually, sometimes the two areas are exactly the same distance from the one you want. I'm going to see if I can find one like that while you guys are working on this. If I can't, I'll just tell you to do, but I'm going to see if I can find one. Okay, I think number 4 will do it. So we're going to go to number 4. So we still have this picture. Remember, the area to the left of z equals 0 is 0.5. That just helps you decide if you're looking for positive or negative. On number 4, it says use the standard normal table or technology to find the z-score. And it says that corresponds to the following cumulative area. It says the cumulative area is 0.94. This is a little bit of a tricky question. Simon, did you have a question?
Yeah, okay, so on number 3 for me, I put it in and it gave me 2 numbers on the z-score. It was supposed to be, well, I put 1.65 and it told me it was 1.655. I don't know.
Oh, if yours was exactly halfway, that would be why.
Oh, okay, because it was kind of close to like the one you did on yours.
If it's exactly halfway in between, and that's what I'm going to show on this one. So
okay.
maybe yours was like that, okay? So on this one, and let me show you something that's tricky about this particular question, is that they wrote the cumulative area and they took it out 2 places. It makes it look like a z-score, but it's not. It says, it tells you in there the cumulative area is 0.94. So be really careful. Notice they're asking me for the z-score. If they're asking me for the z-score, they aren't then going to give me a z-score. This is not the z-score. This is the cumulative area. So that means what I want to do is make that look like the areas in the table, because this is an area. So we'll put 2 zeros. So really what they're saying is that the area to the left is 0.9400. And that's the number we're looking for in the body of the table. Okay, so now, since that is bigger than 0.5, right? 0.9 is bigger than a half. And this tells us that this is a positive z-score. That means it's going to be over here. Notice that that area is close to 1. I bet this z is way down here because it has 94% of the area to the left. It's almost at the very end. So, so it's going to be definitely going to be positive because the area to the left is more than a half. Let's see if we can find 0.9400 in the body of our table. So this time I'm going to look at the positive table. And I'm looking for the area as close as possible to 0.94. Remember, that means 0.9400. So I'm looking for that, and there's a 94. All of mine end up being in the gray areas. There's a 9406. Right here. Hold on just a second. There's a 9406 right here. And that's a little too big. One to the left of it is 0.9394 is what it should be, but this one says looks on here like it says 0.9393. Let me look at mine. Should say 0.939. That really says 0.9394. So what I was looking for, guys, was the area to the left was 0.94, which I then wrote as 0.9400 because it was an area. And it's halfway, it's in between these two numbers. So
this is example number 4 from the homework?
I'm doing number 4, yes. Yes, number 4, sorry. So my area to the left was 0.9400, and so it's between these two. So I'm looking at 1.55 or 1.56. So I'm going to write these areas and z-scores down, then I'm going to show you what to do. So what I found was 0.9394, 0.9406. And I'm going to write the z's that go with them. For 0.9394, the z-score was 1.55, and 0.9406 is 1.56. Okay, so I want to show you what I've got here. So on this one, I'm going to look at those last 3 numbers, 400. This one is 394. Notice that's 6 smaller. This one is 406. It's 6 bigger. These two areas are exactly the same distance from 9400. So this is what we're going to do when it's exactly the same. When you don't have an area that's closest, and these two areas are the same distance, neither one is closer from 0.9400. What we're going to do in that special case is we're going to average the two z-scores. So I'm going to take the 1.55 plus 1.56 and divide by 2. And this is going to be one of the few instances where we take a z-score out 3 places. Because when we average this, we're going to get 1.555. We're going to get 3 places. So that's going to be a weird time when we're going to do that. Now, sometimes in my stat lab, some authors, they will go ahead and round that to the 100th place. This particular one says round to 3 places as needed, so it's willing to take all 3. So I'm going to put in 1.555. So Diamond, the one you had, possibly your two areas were exactly the same distance from the area you were looking for. So when that happens, basically
Yeah,
what
it was.
it's doing is you end up adding a 5 onto the smaller one to get the halfway point.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so those are the different possibilities. The number might be there exactly, or you might have to pick the closest one, or sometimes if both of the areas are the same distance, you have to average the z-scores. You don't average the areas. You find the two z-scores and then you average the z-scores. I want to do one more problem before we quit. I want to do a problem where we actually use this. So I'm going to go to later in the table, in the assignment, I'm sorry, later in the assignment, let me see. Oh, I want to do an easier one first. Maybe number 7. Let me see what the last ones are. Yeah. So we're going to talk about these again on Wednesday. Let's look at we'll look at number 6. Let's look at number 6. This is a different kind of question. So I'm going to do number 6, then you should be able to do most of the questions in 5.3, like maybe not all of them. But most of them, and then we'll do a few more. Find more questions for me from 5.3 that we'll start with that on Wednesday. But number 6 says this. Use the standard normal table to find the z-score. So I'm just going to write that because that's the question. Once you know what this question is, go ahead and write it down so you know what you're going to give in the end. Find the z-score. It corresponds to the given percentile. So it's going to give me, instead of giving me an area, it's going to give me a percentile. So I'm going to talk to you about that. If the area is not in the table, use the one that's closest, and if it's halfway, then use a z-score halfway. In other words, average them. And this is the percentile this one gives me. It writes it like this. What this is telling you, what this means. Well, first of all, it means the 72nd percentile. That's what it means. And what it's telling you is that that's the percent that's to the left, that's smaller. So what that means is 0.72 is the area to the left. '72nd percentile means 72% is less than. Which means, change it to a decimal, 0.72 is the area to the left. And since that is area, and our areas have 4 decimal numbers, let's put 0.7200. So the number I'm looking for is 0.7200. Since that is bigger than 0.5, see 0.7 is more than a half. So what kind of z-score is it going to have? Is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? What do you think? Will the z-score be
Positive.
Positive, right. So we know our z-score is positive. I'm just going to put a plus there, okay? That reminds me that it's going to be positive. That's because the area to the left is more than half the areas to the left. So we're looking for 7,200. Let's look at our z-table. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up again. We use the z-table for the rest of the semester, by the way, guys. Get a good copy of it. And I'm going to look at the positive one. And I'm going to enlarge this a little bit, if I can. It won't let me. So I'm looking for 0.7200, 7200. Of course, it's in the gray area again. The ones I bring up are always the ones in the gray area, so I have to look at it on my paper copy. 7200. Okay, it's at the end over here. I'm gonna have to just tell you what it is. So it's between those two numbers there are I'm looking for, yeah. Those two numbers, I know you can't see them probably, but maybe if you're looking at your chart, you can. One of them is 0.7190, and the other one's 0.7224. Remember, the number I was looking for was 0.7200. That's what I was looking for. So look at that as 200 there. Compare that to 190 and 224. Is it closer to one than the other?
.7190.
Right, this one's closer, so that's the one I'm going to use. I'm not going to use that one. So 7190 is this first one here, and its z-score is, it's in this row and this column. So that z-score is 0.5. You put a 0 in front if you want. 0.58. I'm not going to average because that one area is definitely closer. So when I show the work, area to the left, looking for a z over here, a positive z. And I want the area to the left to be 0.7200. But the areas I found on either side were these two that I put up here, 7190 and 0.7224. So this is what I was looking for, and that's the question. Is what's the z-score associated with an area to the left? What z-score has 72% of the area to the left? So I was looking for this. This one is basically 10 too small, and this one's like 24 too big. So this one is the closer one. So the z that is associated with that z-score was 0.58, right? And that's what they just wanted the z-score. This should get you through at least the first half of this assignment. What we've done today should get you through the first half. Remember, 5.3 is basically using the table backwards. So now they give us area to the left, or in another question, sometimes they may give us area to the right, but we always figure out the area to the left first. And then get the z-score from that by using the table backwards. So work on those, and we'll do a few more from 5.3 on Wednesday. My computer's gone into battery saving mode, so I'm going to end class, and I will see you on Wednesday. However, if you have a quick question, I will stay and answer it.